That's us. Episode 3, long awaited, highly
I'm not
anticipated.
There's been a bit of a gap, but we are back.
Yeah, another special guest.
On it, like sing.
What was that, Cauley? You absolute. It's like your microphone, your computer is in like 1850, and we are in 2019 struggling.
Hang on. Are we there now?
It'll do. It'll do. Yeah, we've got Mr. Juan Adams coming on soon. That'll be interesting. That'll be fun. In the meantime, we'll go gloss over a couple things that I want to talk about. We have
Ross, as ever, is more prepared than anyone else.
We have the fellow Scotsman Stevie Ray has been given a really good fight, a really good fight for him, as he'll take on Michael Johnson at UFC Singapore.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
That is
good. I was on Stevie Ray. Is he not grappling against Paddy Pimblett at the end of the month?
He is
in a few days. So that's my fellow Scouser Paddy Pimblett against fellow Scot for you, Stevie Ray. So we've got a bit of front page rivalry going on.
We'll soon see what happens. I think it's bragging rights.
That's on Friday, I think. It'll be on Fight Pass. If anyone's got it, we're to watch it live. Polaris 11, I think it is, on Friday night. Yeah, that's a really good fight for him, and a nice sort of high-profile event as well.
What was Stevie Ray's last fight? Can any of you remember? Oh no, he got flatlined, didn't he, against
he got knocked
Garcia?
Out.
With that in mind, even though it is like Scottish, I think it's quite generous to give him someone like Michael Johnson after getting starched the way he did. Because it's a more high-profile fight in his last one. It's coming off quite a devastating loss.
Yeah, he's only 3-1 as well.
I mean, I'm happy for him, fair play to him, but it seems a bit generous, in all honesty.
Well, maybe it's for Michael Johnson's benefit than his, I don't know.
Very well could be, after he's going quite a skid, isn't he?
Yeah,
so is Michael Johnson going up in weight, or is Stevie Ray coming down in weight? Because Michael Johnson's gone to featherweight, hasn't he? So is he coming back up, or?
Yeah, I'm sure it's at 155.
Very interessant.
So
yeah, so it could be a good fight. It's not one to get the juices flowing necessarily, but it's
I'm looking forward to it.
For UK MMA, it's good to get someone on. I know it's only a fight night card, but it's quite a high profile one. It's trying to break the Asian market, that kind of thing, aren't they? And Ben Askren on the top of the bill, former one champion, and obviously in Asia they know all about him because he was the champion for a fair while in one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely one to try and get the attention. So maybe he'll win a few fans if he comes up with a good win in that one.
I just need to quickly correct what I said there. I said Michael Johnson was in quite a skid, but he was riding a 2-fight winning streak before he fought Elkins, so I'll just retract that comment.
Yeah, he's a bit of a 50-50 fighter though, isn't he? In his career, he's kind of a he's always not too many fights away from a defeat by the So
he's fought some top guys always, like Edson Barboza, Nate Diaz, Poirier, Khabib, Gaethje. Like, he always fights top quality of opposition. So
I mean, and the best of all, he fought Artem Lobov, didn't he?
Exactly.
So he's got a win over the greatest of all time. So what can you say? But yeah, the win against Touchy-Feely was it was a close one, but it was a good win to get. And he's obviously one of the few to have beaten Dustin.
The greatest nickname of all time, may I just quickly say. Touchy-Feely.
Touchy. Yeah, Touchy's a great name,
yeah.
He's beaten Gleison Tibau as well. He's got some good names. He's beaten Tony Ferguson. He's got some. It was a while ago, but he's got some good names on his record. So, he's got that ability to finish someone off, and it won't be easy for Stevie Ray. A couple of veterans, but yeah, should be a good fight.
One more kind of quick thing that we'll talk about before we get one on is, Matt, I know how much you love talking about Conor McGregor, so...
my favourite. Yeah.
Frankie Edgar said that he'll fight McGregor regardless of the weight class. What do you think of that one?
Heavyweight.
Heavyweight. 265 McGregor.
What's the point, Frankie Edgar? You have literally just announced you're going down to bantamweight.
Money.
And Conor McGregor is not going to bantamweight. Doesn't matter how much he tries.
I honestly think that. I mean, it would be at 155 probably if it was to happen, and I think Edgar could possibly give McGregor some problems with his wrestling. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it would go.
I would see, to be honest, I don't like him very much, and well documented, I suppose, on my Twitter that I keep on going on about how much I don't like him. But
This is McGregor. Speaking of
McGregor, yeah. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of Frankie Edgar either, but I would still expect Conor McGregor to win that fight, even with his lack of practice and whatever else. I mean, whether that's at 155 or 145, I still think McGregor would win.
Fair point. That is fair. Cauley, what do you think?
I'm just bored of Conor McGregor. Cannot be bothered with him. Cannot be doing with him. To be honest, I think the lower the weight class that Edgar wants it, the better for McGregor because it's a bigger cocaine binge, innit? You know what I mean?
Watch out for the libel. Well, wait for Conor McGregor's lawyers to give us a call.
I was going to say, disclaimer, that is not true and it's completely false. And
well, we don't know that either.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, the right girl on in that treehouse, I'll tell you that. But no, as a fighter, he was at featherweight, he went on a mint run, and then... Well, I find it hard I couldn't get behind him in the Diaz fights because obviously I like Diaz more, which is just fair enough. And then after Alvarez, mate, he should have just carried on. And fair enough, he went for Mayweather, but then after that, he's just gone downhill and downhill and downhill. And to be fair, I don't care if he fights Khabib again, Mayweather again, Lobov, Kean Cauley, John Kavanagh. I don't care if he fights Ronda Rousey in WWE. I do not care what he does. He can just do. I think he's irrelevant now, and I think he's trying to stay relevant by doing stupid shit.
Fair enough.
I don't know why he needs to stay relevant. He's got so much money. He's got so much.
I know if his business is doing good, all his businesses are doing good, then good on him. Like fair play. Like I hope it carries on. But fight wise, either get in or shut up. Because I'm bored of it. I'm honestly so bored of him now. He's going to come back against Cerrone, then Gaethje, and I don't know what's happening now. Is he coming back at the end of the year?
He told ESPN that he actually had the offer for Gaethje, but he broke his hand. Like the Gaethje fight very nearly happened, but he broke
fair
his
enough
hand.
Then. It's fair enough. You're not going to take a fight with a broken hand, but
he needs to be a little bit more open about it and maybe a little bit more kind of upfront about trying to come back and trying to make a fight.
True.
Because as it is, he's just kind of, people see him just on the outlines and making headlines and whatever else, but nothing to do with actually fighting anybody. So maybe if we have a fighting headline, then maybe we can start talking about him properly again because, he's obviously talented. He's very skilled. One of the best strikers 145 has ever seen. So, and about Frankie Edgar with against him at 145 or 155. Holloway has arguably got at the same level or even less wrestling than Conor McGregor has, and he still managed to. I'm going to say it was comfortably beat Frankie Edgar. It was It was a 5-round win.
Yeah.
So I would expect something similar in the Conor McGregor fight. Maybe he won't finish him because Frankie's a tough guy, but I expect him to win by decision at least by a good 4 rounds to 1 at least.
Fair enough. Before we go too much further, I think we'll cap it off and we'll try and get one in the call now.
Okay.
Right, so I've added them now, so see if we're successful this time after they try to get Cal in last time.
We need some intermission music to play.
As long as my camera doesn't come on, because I'm not decent, shall we say?
Hey, what's up?
Juan, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Afternoon, Juan. Afternoon.
Thanks for coming along. I know it's quite short notice, so thank you for that.
No problem.
Hope you had a good day last week with your girlfriend.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
What did you get up to?
We just went. It was after her birthday week, so we were kind of trying to get back in the groove of everything. She went back to work. I just went back to chilling and working out back in the gym now. So doing it all.
Fair enough. Sounds good.
So you had a bit of a break from the gym since the last fight, then?
Yeah. Each fight is different. Sometimes you want to get right back in. Sometimes you need to take some time off. after that one, I kind of just didn't want to be around fighting for a while. I didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to think about it. So I took about 3 weeks off, and then I already had some other plans, so that helped a lot. Just
Emotions running high after that one, I think, weren't they?
yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about one was back when you were in college, you originally played football, but you missed out on a scholarship because you broke your hand. I wanted to ask you, are you happy the way things have worked out with now you being fairly successful in MMA, or do you wish that you could have continued with football?
Yeah, I'm very happy. Ultimately, I never really liked football all that much. It was one of those things that I did because, I was big. I was in Texas. Like, when I was a kid, I really wanted to play football because my dad played football. But once I got older, I stopped enjoying it. I never really, I hadn't enjoyed football since I was like 12. So,
Yeah.
um,
So it actually worked out for the best then, really.
yeah. I really did. When I found wrestling, I just fell in love with the sport altogether. I actually found it by accident. I tried out for the basketball team, and I wasn't gonna make it, so I went ahead and started wrestling instead, and I got my growth spurt actually after wrestling season or during the season. But
Good timing.
yeah, but I liked wrestling so much at the time that it was pretty easy to stick with instead of football or basketball.
And then how did you end up making the transition then from wrestling to MMA?
Um, I was doing it over summers, so the wrestling gym that I trained at back in Houston on summer breaks from college was an MMA gym. Um, So what I would do is when I would come home, I would just train at this MMA gym. I would go to their wrestling classes, and some of the fighters started asking me to help them out with their wrestling. And before I knew it, I started like sparring and stuff occasionally, just so I could get a better idea of what shots would and wouldn't work. And once I graduated, I kind of revisited the whole football thing for about 6 months, and then in January of 2016, I finally, because I was bouncing at clubs and stuff, and I was still doing privates, so I was still helping other fighters with their wrestling and things like that. But finally, in January of 2016, I just decided, yeah, let's give it a go, see how I'll do at it, and initially, I started it because I wanted to lose weight. I was up to like 320 pounds at the time, so that helped me lose a lot of the weight at first. And then I did my first amateur fight, and it was really easy. So uh, then I just kept accepting fights to lose more and more weight, and then before I knew it, I was 4-0 as an amateur, and thinking about going pro and trying to make it a real run at the UFC, and we made it.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, obviously, you started off in the LFA and you had great success there. I wanted to ask, what do you find are the main differences when it comes to fighting for the UFC compared to a sort of smaller promotion such as LFA?
You know, well, one, the talent level of the fighters is very different. And in the UFC, that whole concept of anything can happen really is more prevalent because the skill level is a lot closer in the fighters. When you're fighting at LFA, yeah, you have their top guys that are really good, but you also have a lot of guys on there that aren't really that good, or you see a big drop off in talent sometimes in these fights. So when I was fighting for LFA, it didn't really matter what was going on in my personal life or if I was having issues focusing or anything because I was just so much better than anyone I was fighting that as soon as I decided the fight was over, it was over. Whereas in the UFC, when things aren't going well in your personal life or whatever, if you're not 100% focused in there, any little lapse or any little mistake can end the fight. So there's a lot smaller margin of error in the UFC. For instance, you know, in my last fight, that's the only takedown I've ever missed in MMA, but it ended the fight.
Yeah.
So like, that sucks. I mean, there were times in my early career when I would get rocked or like just eat a straight up power punch, and it didn't really phase me all that much. It actually would like wake me up a little bit. In the UFC, I can't do that.
If you were to have that fight again, you know, you said the wrestling, the takedown was the first one you'd missed. Would you go in differently with a different game plan, or would you stick?
Yeah, I would stay on my feet the entire time. If I had that fight again, no, that's
Yeah, you've got no danger of being taken down by him, have you? To be fair.
yeah.
That's what I was going to ask about in the Hardy fight when you shot for that single leg and it didn't work. When you kind of felt the punches coming down, what were you thinking at that point in time? Because it appeared like you stayed still and he was able to land a lot of punches. So what's going through your head at that point?
Well, you know, I thought my shoulder was blocking a lot of them. You know, a lot of the punches were going to the back of my head also. So I didn't really think danger. Like none of them were hurting. As he was hitting me, I'm like, okay, these aren't doing any damage. And you could feel them getting weaker and weaker as time went on. So, you know, I readjusted to my knees, and from there, I was thinking, okay, do I want to shelf the leg? Do I want to double off here? Do I want to go to a crackdown, or do I want to post my arm and circle out? And you'll look, my right arm, I was posting and circling it down to push on the mat. And wrestling, you do that and you circle around, and you come out the back and you get the takedown. So that's what my thought process was. But then before I knew it, you know, the ref stopped the fight. So.
Do you agree with the referee's decision to stop the fight, or do you think you could have carried it on with obviously saying?
I thought I could have carried it on a lot longer. Like I said, I wasn't taking any real damage. So no, I don't agree with his decision, but I understand why he stopped it. So it sucks, but you know, it's one of those things where I do, if I'm in there fighting, I always thought, you know, I would want my coach and cornerman to err on the side of my safety. But after that fight, I realized, like, no, I want to go out. Like, you give me the chance to win, you know?
Yeah.
It's one of those without respect to all the guys who go into the octagon and fight and so on. I've always kind of thought it a little bit of the power in Hardy's punches kind of overplayed a bit overestimated how much power he's got, and especially after a bit of time. I mean, we watch Alan Crowder fight; he rained down on him, and Crowder didn't even, he didn't come close to knocking Crowder out, really, did he? And I know he's knocked off Smoliakov since, but it didn't look to me like many of those punches were, you'd be fine to get back up, and you wouldn't necessarily have any adverse effects from the punches you were taking.
Oh, definitely. I totally agree with that assessment. He doesn't really have a whole lot of power, but it's at a point now where that fight will bother me for a really long time, and until either I surpass him career-wise or I get the rematch, it's gonna bother me. But also, I need him to keep doing well because that makes me look not as bad for losing to him, I guess.
It's motivation as well, isn't it? I suppose if you've got something to, it might be personal, I suppose, but I'm only one of the motivations you've got. But if you can carry on just to get that, that rematch and hopefully spark him out next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that something you're actively seeking in the rematch, or are you going to take another fight, do you think, just to see what the UFC are offering? Or are you going to put your hands down and say, listen here, Dana, give me that fight now?
We can ask for it all we want to. I'm at a point now where I kind of have to accept whatever they give me. I'm making some big changes in camp and things like that also. So
yeah.
I like to, see where that goes with me and see how things go. Kind of take whoever they give me, put on a highlight performance and go from there. But if they called me today with a rematch in 3 months, I'd do it.
Yeah.
Straight on. The heavyweight division's getting a bit more stacked now, though, isn't it? Because it was a bit, it was dwindling a bit, wasn't it? And now they've kind of, they've started putting a bit more talent in it now, haven't they? Obviously, there's Greg's coming into it. There's a few of the Russians, aren't they, coming into it now? So there's loads of options now at heavyweight compared to what there was to get yourself back up there.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a lot more talent at heavyweight. There still aren't really a whole lot of like superstars or killers, but there's a lot of interesting matchups you can make, and there's a lot of variants and styles now that'll make for, I think more interesting and more compelling fights.
So would you always plan? I mean, one of the things that was noticed in the Hardy fight was the weigh-ins. Like both of you came in on the limit of 265, and it's not that often, I think, in heavyweight fights that both fighters have come in at the limit. Is that something that was planned, or is that something that you always go for? Just try and come in on the limit.
I walk around at right now I'm 295. For that fight, I was walking around at about 285 beforehand. So, that's just my natural body weight is really large, really high. I'm a large guy. So we don't really plan for it. We just plan to make the weight. But once I hit 260, 266, we stop. I mean, I'm not trying to cut additional weight that I don't have to. That drains a lot out of me. So, yeah.
So what were you on fight night? What you come into the octagon at?
I was 278 on fight night.
Nice.
That's something I was going to ask about. Last guest we had on was a Bellator fighter, Cauley. He told an interesting story about a weight cut in Africa, and I was going to ask you if you had any sort of funny or interesting weight cut stories.
Yeah. So the first time I tried to do a saltwater bath, the apartment that I was staying with, we had a big bathtub, but it just wasn't big enough for me. So I filled it up as high as it would go, and then I got inside of it, and I'm trying to do the saltwater bath, but my whole body wouldn't emerge and wouldn't submerge in there. So I was just like balled up in a fetal position, trying to get all the hot water on me, and I'm just like splashing it on my. It looked really. I'm sure it looked hilarious. I was not not a happy camper that day, but usually the first few times that I cut weight, right after I made weight, this was when I was still fighting on the local circuit, but right after I would make weight, I would order like nachos and cheeseburgers and all this food, and I would eat so much that I would actually get sick, and I would spend the rest of the day like napping and trying to recover. So, and then fight night would come around, and I would be okay. And I would also eat like 3 boxes of Little Debbie cakes and things like that.
Is this a habit that you've put into the past now that you've got into the UFC?
Yeah, for my first fight, I ate a lot of it. My second fight, I had the stuff, but I only ate some of it. But my last fight, I didn't eat any. I think I had a pastry the day after or the day of weigh-ins, and pancakes. But that's about as bad as it got.
Got to treat yourself, though, haven't you? After a weight cut, got to give yourself a bit of on the back, haven't you?
Yeah, it was a small treat. I don't do the huge one, like the huge spreads anymore until after the fight.
So what would you like if you win a fight? You win a fight in the UFC. What do you go for the next day? What's your celebratory dinner then?
Drinks. I like to go. Ideally, it's some type of
Liquid lunch,
smothered chili cheeseburger, or pizza. It's a smothered chili cheeseburger, pizza, or wings. Like those are my go-tos. And then,
I'm gonna get myself hungry now.
Yeah, and then then it's like a lot of alcohol, and ice cream. That's what I'm going for after a fight.
To live at large. That's it.
I've got a question that's it's a little bit in the past, but it's something that I'm interested in. If you cast your mind back to your fight with Arjan Bula, obviously he got that unanimous decision, but you landed more strikes every single round, and me personally, as I watched it, I thought you'd won the fight. Did you think at the time you were going to get that win? Are we surprised?
I thought that I won the fight, but I also knew that I was in Canada, and I figured that if it was any like in a fight like that, any like questionable round is going to go to the hometown guy. So, I thought I definitively won round one. Round two was a toss up in my head because while he did get the takedown, I got up really quickly
Yeah.
And I inflicted a lot more damage than he did. But I wasn't really surprised. I was more disappointed afterwards because I did believe that I won that fight.
Yeah, that's what they say about leaving it to the judges when you've got. I know it's easier said than done, obviously, but when you've got a hometown guy, but you've got also quite funny. He's in one championship now, isn't he? And he's being advertised as an Indian fighter now rather than Canadian. So it's kind of see how he does in that, and that kind of gives you an idea, then, doesn't it? If he does well in one championship, that outside of the UFC and those other big organizations, you could probably do equally as well.
Oh, for sure. And what I've focused on a lot is the UFC doesn't really market me a whole lot. I do a lot of marketing for myself, and I just try and continue to be engaging with fans and things like that, and build my build my brand that way. And it's working pretty well for me. I've gained a lot of followers off of the last two fights. There's definitely more eyes on me now, so.
I can't imagine there was many fights where many more people wanted one to win over the other when it came to the Greg Hardy fight. I think pretty much 99% of MMA fans wanted you to win that one.
Yeah. So I mean that was a tough pill to swallow, but we're getting back in the gym and we're just gonna go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. But I think I mean more kind of like it wasn't necessarily just that he's a tit, but it's also that you held yourself well before the fight as well. You know what I mean? It wasn't just the fact that they wanted him to lose. There were a lot of people getting behind you as well. I think a lot of people kind of they can kind of empathize with your personality and how you come across. And obviously on Twitter you're quite active and you've got you talk to the fans a lot, and it's a good way of getting people on your side. I think you do it quite well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I always try and be accessible and relate to people, talk to them.
One of my favourite things about the build up to the Hardy fight was the image of you sitting next to Tyron Woodley. I think everyone loved that. You made him look a flyweight.
Yeah, Tyron, I've actually seen him because when I did my fight in Milwaukee, we were training primarily at Rufus Sport. So I've been around Tyron a lot. He's a really cool guy.
So what did you think of the response to your outfit?
I liked it. It was pretty positive. I actually the first time I wore that outfit was for my Access TV interviews for an LFA fight in Lake Charles. That was my last fight with LFA, and I wanted to wear it for my Contender Series stuff, but they didn't let me.
It was a beautiful outfit. It was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got one. Ross is going to get a nice surprise at Christmas this year.
Oh, what am I getting set up for? Well, on a more serious note, obviously in your Division 1, we saw the belt change hands last weekend, 2 weekends ago?
Yeah, last 2 weekends ago. Yeah. What are we? Monday, yeah.
Yeah, so what did you think of that title fight when Stipe took his belt back?
I actually thought Stipe was gonna win that one. I thought Stipe was winning the first fight. I thought the eye pokes played a really big role in that one. And he did. I mean, he got clipped. Obviously, DC. Daniel Cormier is a really good fighter. I mean, he's a great all-time great fighter. but I just thought that Stipe was a little bit better than him on the feet. So it was a really good fight, and it was definitely very close going into that fourth round. But I thought it was a great performance by both guys. I was pretty happy to see Stipe win it.
Yeah, I was devastated, but there you go. That's all right.
It did seem like Cormier, because DC had so much success in the first 3 rounds. It seemed like he was starting to get a little bit. I don't want to say arrogant; it sounds too negative, but he was marching Stipe down with his hands by his side.
I just think he was
surprising.
tired. I just think he was tired.
Well, back to the main man today, Juan Adams.
Yeah, so
there's a question I want to ask. You might not want to do this, but if you were to fight someone next, is there anyone that you've got your eye on that you do want to fight, that you want to test yourself against?
Obviously, I'd like to fight Hardy again. Other than that, though, I would really like to fight Alan Crowder. We've got same record in the UFC. We both came off a Contender Series. I'm sure he wants to get back in there after his last one. So I think that'd be a good fight.
That'll be your first step in bettering Hardy's record as well.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously, he was gassed after about 45 seconds against Crowder, and then with that knee, it's ridiculous, wasn't it? But there you go. Sorry, I don't know if you're getting any vibes about what I think about Greg Hardy from this.
Oh no, I can tell. I love it. But so yeah, him or one of the Contender Series guys, another newly signed guy will probably be good for me. I kind of want someone on my same experience level. That would be a step in the right direction for me, because I've only been a pro since my pro debut was 2018, or 2017. Yeah,
you're a baby in MMA, really.
Yeah, June of 2017. So
in the nicest possible way,
That's a big baby, big 6'5" baby.
Exactly. So, I think that would be a good. Those are all pretty good fights for me.
Definitely,
but
yeah.
I'm kind of at the company's mercy now. So, whoever's available, January, February timeline, or even March, I'd be willing to wait a little while now and really put some time in and put my best foot forward in my next one.
Well, kind of on the same sort of path. Another question is, if you could fight anyone in sort of heavyweight history, a dream matchup, who would it have been to test yourself against, past or present?
Ooh, past or obviously Brock Lesnar. Back in the day, because he was such a physical guy. I think that would have been a really good test. It would have been fun. Randy Couture, just because he was one of my favorite fighters, and he's a really cool guy too. So, those two guys. Then now, you want to test yourself against the greats like the Mirko Cro Cops and Fedors of the world. Kevin Randleman, that would be another. That guy was a monster.
That would have been a good one to see.
You don't want to cop a slam off him, do you?
No, definitely not.
How did Fedor survive that, though? How did Fedor just... Oh.
Because Fedor is a monster as well, to be fair. But yeah, it's a shame to see him fighting still, considering he's a bit of a shadow of what he used to be. So hopefully we don't see you do the same thing, down the line when you're 45 years old and you still putting yourself in there when you don't need to anymore.
Oh yeah, if I'm still fighting at 40, I've done something wrong,
You never know though, because you do see guys that in DC, prime example. Yeah, he lost his last fight, but he still looked great up to that point, and he's well past his 40th birthday now. So it does show.
You get hooked in a way, I suppose, don't you? Some people have still got unfinished business or whatever, but people commonly say Fedor's like the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's got nothing to prove anymore, but. I know it's adding to his nice bank balance, I'm sure, but
Yeah, that probably has a lot to do with it. But I don't know. It's a tough way to make a living, man. Like you do it because you like it, but after a while, it's a cost benefit analysis, and
Yeah.
at that age, if you've already proved it, if I had accomplished what Fedor or DC had accomplished, I wouldn't still be fighting at that age,
Yeah, relaxing at home, spending your time. Would you become a trainer, do you think, or would you just be out of the fight game then when you finished?
I'd probably do a little bit of coaching. For me, I feel very strongly that if you're a coach, you shouldn't be competing anymore. If you still have, personal stakes in it, or if you're still trying to make a name for yourself at that point, you shouldn't really be the coaching because the focus needs to be on the fighter. It needs to be all about the fighter. When you're out there, uh, there shouldn't be attention being drawn to the coaches. So if I'm coaching, I don't want people asking me like when I'm gonna fight again, or if I'm gonna fight again, or if I have any desire to do it. Like it's when I make that transition, it's going to be because I am done competing 100%, and I've got nothing left to prove. At that point, I just want to give back.
Fair enough. The one question you mentioned there was when are you going to fight again? So I'm going to ask you that. When are you aiming to get back in the cage? Is there any sort of date in mind?
Yeah, we're thinking probably January or February at the earliest. If they offer me something before then, I'll just have to change up the way I'm training. But we could still do one before that, but ideally, I'd like to fight probably late January, early February timeline.
Fair
So
enough.
you mentioned before that you were going to change some things up in your next training camp. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What kind of different focus you're gonna take in the upcoming camp?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be going to start spending more time at Jackson Wink. So, for about a month at a time, I'm going to go out there and train with those guys, get some reps in with John Jones. And, my management company, we've got a couple other heavyweights out there. So that's been really the biggest obstacle for me is a complete lack of training partners. Everyone around here does what they can, but I don't have any true heavyweights, or even the guys that are heavyweights, they're not 100% fully committed athletes. They're not guys that are in the UFC or at that level. And, after you can only get so far on your own, after a while, you have to have that high level and be surrounded by other people on the same path, the same focus as you.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, well, that sounds. I didn't realize. I suppose that you weren't necessarily at somewhere like that already, but it's quite to get as far as you have done in that case is quite impressive, really.
Yeah. I just feel like I've kind of come as far as I can in this environment, and it sucks because I did want to stay with these coaches my entire career. I wanted to take them all the way up to the top, but I need training partners and I need a program to do it, and I'm not getting that where I'm at.
Yeah. So did you have any? Sorry, go on, Ross.
Oh, I was going to say, I suppose like MMA can be a kind of selfish game at times. There comes a point where you need to just look out for yourself, what's best for your career, and try and move on that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So did you have any sort of you're going to Jackson Wink? Were there any other gyms that you had in mind, or was it was this the one that you wanted to go to most of all, and you just sort of set your sights on that one?
Yeah, I've been kind of fighting the move for a really long time. I fought my manager really hard because I wanted to stay home. I wanted to stay with these coaches and do all of that. I've trained out at Team Elevation with Curtis Blades and all those guys. That would be fun, but and it would be really good for me. But I think Jackson Wink will end up being a better move because I've trained there before. I've met with Winklejohn. I've met with Greg Jackson. And I know a lot of the guys and people out there. So I think that'll be the best spot for me. My manager and I talked about it in depth, and we had talked. I've spoken to Eric Anders and some other guys, and Factory X Muay Thai is another place that was on the radar. Fortis MMA is another one, but we're still going to be trying other places out. But Jackson Wink will be the primary one for me, and then I might every now and then go to another place for a week or so and just see how it goes out there.
So I keep on thinking about it. It's only do you still live in Texas now, Juan?
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of thinking about how New Mexico is only like the one state over, but then you kind of we're British, so we don't live in a very big country. You kind of look at the map and you think, well, actually, it's not even like you can just pop home, is it? It's absolutely miles away.
Yeah.
Even though it's only the next state over.
Like a 17 or 18-hour drive.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
That's not even possible in Britain.
No, you can drive down to the bottom of the UK and back up again.
Yeah. But yeah, that's we don't kind of have that idea. I was thinking, oh yeah, it's only one state over, so you can still, it's a good from that point of view because you can still visit home all the time or whatever. But it's not quite the same as training on the other side of the country here when we can.
Yeah, it's about a 2 or 3 hour plane ride. So, I mean, if I wanted to visit more frequently, I could. I don't really want to. So, so time to spread the wings,
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, I don't know about Matt and Cauley. Do you guys have anything else to really speak about? I think I've run out my questions anyway. So, how about you guys?
No, I think I just
a very non-MMA related one. How do you feel about the Spider-Man situation?
I'm hurt. Honestly, I'm very upset about it. At first I was really upset at Sony, but I come to find out Marvel's the one behind it. They're trying to renege on a predetermined deal, so Marvel's the evil corporation in this one.
Have you all turned into DC now?
And that
I just kind of hope one of the things about the Marvel films, though, Spider-Man doesn't really have even in the films that are about Spider-Man, he's not even really the big focus of them. So maybe Sony can give him a bit more, a film about him. You know what I mean?
Sony just messes the movies up a lot of the times. I don't like the way that Sony casts their characters. I didn't really like the way Marvel cast that Spider-Man either. So it's kind of good. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he's been the best one.
He's staying though, isn't he? Isn't he signed on to the Sony films? He's staying.
Yeah. So
that'll be good. I thought the film was terrible overall, but I thought Tom Hardy as Venom was a good cast, and he did well in a terrible film. So maybe they play off each other quite well in the Sony world.
It'll be interesting to see. It was weird because I thought Marvel was going to go back more to the comic roots of Spider-Man. So I was expecting, when I saw who they cast as Flash Gordon, I'm like, that can't be Agent Venom. Like, that's terrible. But,
Well,
hopefully.
On you go, Jack, Matt, sorry.
No, I'm just saying. Hopefully, it works out in the end, and because Sony have got X-Men as well, haven't they? And we don't. It would be best if they could all be in the same company and appear in films, whatever.
Like they got back X-Men and Fantastic Four, which I never really cared a whole lot about Fantastic Four. Silver Surfer was my favorite character from that series, but Reed Richards is super important in that universe. So I understand it. It's just not my favorite. But X-Men, I love X-Men. That's what got me started in the comics. So
I was all over that program in the 90s. That cartoon was just best. I used to love that.
Oh yeah, then they had the X-Men Evolution series in the early 2000s. That one was all right too. But the one in the 90s was hands down the best.
Yeah, they had a good Spider-Man back then as well, but the cartoon the X-Men cartoon was just the best. I loved that. Every Saturday morning when I was like 10, 12, and I would watch that. I loved that. That was great. Oh, reminiscing. And I try and get my own kids to watch them, and they just switch off after about 5 seconds. So
yeah, that's the way. I try to get my nephew into it, and all he cares about is dinosaurs right now.
I'm just about getting them on to start enjoying Pokemon. I can move on from there, and we can try and get them into the superheroes.
I got my nephew into Pokemon. Like, he's really into the cards, but he doesn't watch the original Pokemon. He watches the newer ones, and I don't like them that much. So
Indigo League's the one in it. Indigo League is the one for Pokemon.
Oh man, don't even talk about cards. Can't get onto the conversation about cards.
Indigo League was a good one. That's where they were trying to get to the Orange Islands and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Right after that one.
We should probably, before this turns into too much of a geeks and nerds podcast, we'll maybe make it. Actually, we're all, well, Ross isn't, but we're all adults here, so we want to keep our street creds a bit, don't we? So
I appreciate that. I'm an adult in the UK. In the UK, I'm an adult. So.
But you'd be struggling for a drink at UFC, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's all right.
The life of an 18-year-old, terrible.
Don't worry. When you start getting pubes, you'll be there, Ross. Don't worry.
Cheers. Thank you. On that note, I think that's a perfect note to wrap things up. Juan, I want to say thank you again for coming on. Really enjoyed talking to you, so appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming a lot.
No problem. Later.
Yeah, see you later, Juan. Bye-bye.
Bye, Juan. Thank you.
Right, so that was Juan Adams, everyone. I think not much else to talk about at the moment, so we'll just wrap up the third installment of the podcast, and he's kind of slightly shorter one this time, so a bit better.
Yeah, I need to work on. I've got about half an hour until I start getting my little one to bed, so good timing for me.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm about to go to war in 25 minutes, so I'll let you know that.
Best of luck in that one, Cauley.
Best of luck, Cauley. Thanks for coming on, Matt. Thanks for going on, Cauley.
Thanks.
Do this again
Thank
soon.
you again. Thanks for editing everything, Ross.
No problem.
Been a little icon all throughout this call.
And then again, just on the final note, thanks again to Juan for coming on. It was a good chat, and he's a really decent guy. And hopefully his move to Jackson Wink can help him get another win.
Definitely. Well, great. Thanks to our many millions of listeners. Thank you again. Back soon next time. See you later.
And I'd like to thank my mum as well for bringing me into this world to be on the podcast.
All right, Cauley.
Thanks, Cauley.
Thank you.
Oh, well.
Right.
Ciao for now.
Bye-bye.